A cop is standing in a hole in the ground, gagging. It's December 1978. Des Plaines, Illinois. Christmas lights on every porch. Snow on every lawn. And under one unremarkable house, a smell that has been building for months. The homeowner told the neighbors it was a dead rat. He told the plumber it was the sewer line. He told his own wife it was moisture in the concrete. Every single one of those was a lie. By the time this house stops giving up its secrets, investigators will have pulled 33 bodies out of the ground. 33. Making this, in that moment, the worst case of serial murder the country has ever recorded. And the man who lived here. Neighbors loved him. He ran a successful construction company. He threw the best block parties on the street. He once shook hands with the First Lady of the United States, and kept the photo. On weekends, he put on face paint, a rainbow wig, and oversized shoes, and he became a clown named Pogo, performing for free at children's hospitals. Nobody, not one person on this street, saw what was underneath. This is John Wayne Gacy. And by the end of this story, you're going to understand something that should terrify you a lot more than any monster ever could. The scariest people don't look like monsters at all. Everyone in Norwood Park thought they knew him. Successful contractor. Local Democratic Party fixture. The guy who organized the parade. The guy who threw parties his neighbors actually wanted to attend. He was, by every visible measure, one of the good ones. But there was a second John Gacy. One almost nobody connected to the man in the community newsletter photos. Under a mountain of clown makeup he taught himself from a book. He had a second name. Pogo. Sometimes Patches. He performed at hospitals, at charity events, at kids' birthday parties, for free, because, he said, nothing made him happier than making a child laugh. 2 names. 2 faces. Worn by the same man, at the same time, for years. But here's what almost none of his neighbors knew when they invited him over for a beer. He was already a convicted sex offender. He had already served time for assaulting a teenage boy. And in less than 2 years, he'd already convinced a parole board he was cured. That conviction isn't a footnote. It's the fuse. And it had already been lit for years before anyone in Chicago ever heard his name. Here's how it worked. And it worked for 6 straight years. Gacy needed cheap labor for his construction crews, so he hired teenage boys and young men off the street, kids who needed fast cash and wouldn't ask too many questions. He'd offer a job. Good pay, he'd say. Better than anywhere else in the city. Then a beer. Then an invitation back to the house, just to talk business, he'd say, just to go over the details. And then, the trick. He kept a pair of handcuffs around, the kind sold in novelty shops for party tricks and magic acts. Let me show you something, he'd say, already smiling. The second those cuffs clicked shut, the friendly boss, the funny guy, the neighborhood clown, vanished. Something else was standing in that room instead. And here's the part that should really unsettle you. His second wife was living in that house while some of this was happening. She heard the smells. She heard the noises from under the floor at night. She never once imagined what was actually down there. She left in 1976. And once she did, John Wayne Gacy had that entire house completely to himself. Between 1972 and 1978, dozens of young men across Chicago vanish. And here's the terrifying part, almost nobody looks for most of them. Runaways, everyone assumes. Drifters. Kids from rough situations who probably just skipped town. That single assumption is the reason John Wayne Gacy gets away with it for 6 years. Most of his victims work for him, or used to. Others he picks up cold, off street corners and bus stations, promising fast cash for a few hours of labor. Once they're inside that house, most of them are never seen again. He buries them in the crawl space under his own home. In rows. Almost systematically, like he's filing them away. He pours lime over some of the remains to mask the smell as it builds. Eventually, there's no more room down there. So the killing doesn't stop. It just changes location. At least a few of his final victims are driven to a bridge outside the city and thrown straight into the Des Plaines River. 6 years. Dozens of families told to stop worrying, their sons probably just ran off. Until one mother refuses to accept that answer. December 11, 1978. A 15-year-old boy named Robert Piest finishes his shift at a pharmacy in Des Plaines. His mother is waiting outside in the car. He tells her he just needs 5 minutes. There's a contractor here offering summer work that pays nearly triple what he's making right now. He walks across that parking lot to talk about a job. And he never walks back. Most families, at this point in 1978, might have waited. Hoped he turned up somewhere. Assumed the worst was a runaway story, not a crime. Robert's mother doesn't do that. That same night, she walks into the Des Plaines Police Department and gives them one name her son mentioned before he vanished. John Gacy. Detectives pull the name. Within minutes, Iowa flags in the system, a prior sex crime conviction against a teenage boy. Surveillance starts almost immediately. A search warrant follows for a house on Summerdale Avenue. And the second officers step inside. They're hit by a smell so overwhelming that some of them have to walk back outside just to breathe. Gacy has an excuse ready for every question. Every single one of them falls apart within minutes. December 21, 1978. Investigators go back to that house on Summerdale Avenue. This time, they bring shovels. Within hours, not days, hours, they find the first human remains under the crawl space floor. Confronted with what's already in the ground, Gacy starts talking. And what comes out of his mouth over the next several hours is almost impossible for the detectives in that room to process in real time. He estimates he might have killed around 30 people. He says it almost flatly. He admits, without much emotion at all, that he genuinely isn't sure of the exact number. The dig goes on for weeks, through one of the coldest Illinois winters on record. Investigators in hazmat suits work under portable floodlights, cataloging remains inch by inch in a space barely large enough to crouch in. By the time it's finally over, 29 bodies pulled from in and around that house. 4 more recovered from the river. 33 victims. Some wouldn't be identified for decades. A handful still don't have names attached to them today. For 6 years, one of the largest undiscovered crime scenes in American history sat directly underneath a family home, in full view of an entire neighborhood that never once suspected a thing. The trial starts in February 1980, and the whole country is watching. The defense argues insanity, pointing to a brutal childhood, an undiagnosed heart condition, a mind they claim was fractured long before any of this started. The prosecution argues something much colder, calculation. They lay out exactly how carefully he lured every victim, how methodically he buried them, how convincingly normal he behaved in the years between each kill. The jury doesn't need long. Less than 2 hours to convict him on 33 counts of murder. He's sentenced to death. And then, he waits. 14 years on death row. And in that time, Gacy does something almost nobody expects. He starts painting. Clown portraits, mailed out from his cell, sold to collectors and curiosity seekers across the country. Some show Pogo. Some show other clowns entirely, wide grins, painted tears under one eye. People buy them. People still trade them today. On May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy is executed by lethal injection. Witnesses in the room say his last words were, "Kiss my ass." No apology. No explanation. Nothing at all for the families who had waited 16 years for something, anything, that never came. And that's the part of this story that should stay with you. Not the crawl space. Not the number 33. It's this: for 6 years, an entire neighborhood loved this man. Trusted him with their kids. Invited him to their parties. He wore a warm smile for the block, and a painted grin for hospital wards full of sick children. And underneath both of those faces, for years, was something none of them ever saw coming, until it was already far too late.